Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin, doctor, your habit coach, and happy Valentine's Day. So we have a Valentine's Day special going on, and I have got a very special guest over. We're going to be talking about relationships, but from what a therapist sees. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because there are so many things that happen behind the scenes, things that people don't publicly share, that a therapist understands and sees on a daily basis. Now, this is no ordinary therapist. She's already been on the podcast once, and she's also my therapist. So, she's hopefully not going to try and therapize me, but actually answer what we're going to be talking about. So join me in welcoming Aashna to the Habit Coach podcast. Aashna, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be back and I'm really looking forward to this. Is one of my favorite topics because love and relationships is what every human being goes through. So I think I'm very, very excited to talk about it and a perspective coming directly from my counseling room or my therapy room and just how today's world, today's youngsters, today's generation perceives love in relationships. The whole idea has changed so much over time. How our parents were, how we are. So yeah, there's a lot that I want to share. And yeah,
I
I'm
think
excited.
generationally, like you said, there is so much of a change that has taken place.
Yes.
And I think it happens each generation onwards. It's like music. Everyone criticizes the music of the previous generation.
Yes, and then they just realize that that their generation music was so much better than the one they're going to face. That's
and
how
it keeps
it is.
going like that.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the changes that you've seen generationally across?
Oh, the major change, right? If you see our parents or you see our grandparents, okay, the first thought when it came to a relationship that it is permanent. There's suffering, there's compromise, there's adjustment. They were ready to do it. And now we are the latter generation which thinks that, if things don't work out, there's always that exit, that door. So I think that's the major difference that I see in relationships, in the way people perceive love. Also, love was much more, was a process earlier. Now it's become just like, I love you, and then story ends there. So I think these are the two major things where people now, instead of giving chances or instead of coming back or waiting or having patience, I think that has changed a lot over time, I think.
The opportunity of there being an exit now is changing these things.
Yes.
Earlier on, there was probably no chance of an exit.
Absolutely.
There was no way that you could get out of it.
Right.
So you tried your best to make things happen.
Yes.
What is the mindset of people who you've worked with who are in this stage, who are trying to make it happen? Maybe there's no love, maybe there's no caring, etc., but they're trying to make it happen.
So there's a lot, as I said, there's a lot of suffering, in this one also because, you think you're doing your best, you think you're giving all, but somewhere you constantly feel that the other person is not matching your energy or is not matching, your capacity or, you just keep feeling it's unfair because you feel you're giving everything, but, you're not receiving, okay? And that can happen because of a lot of reasons, Ashdin, that why is it that as an individual, I am giving everything, but my partner isn't, reciprocating like that. So either there is lack of communication, there is lack of trust, there is lack of understanding, or simply it just could be that you're just not connecting with each other at the level that you want your partner to. So I think that there could be a lot of elements in every relationship that is working or not working for somebody.
And then what would you typically tell, or how would you deal with somebody who's in a relationship like this where they can't escape, they don't know what to do with themselves?
So typically, one thing is, as I said, the base for any and every relationship is communication, okay? So the first step would always be learning how to communicate. Now, okay, so Ashdin, I've done something wrong and I want to apologize to you, okay? And I want to kind of say, Ashdin, really sorry. So I send you these numerous texts and I send you a lot of messages. I even write you a letter saying, Ashdin, I'm really sorry. But somehow my message is not reaching you. Why is that? That is because you don't understand or you don't accept this kind of messaging. Your messaging could be very different. You could have been like, you should just, just taken the car and come and seen me and just spend some time with me. Or it could even be that, you could have just given me a hug and said everything is fine. So the way you would receive the message is very, very different, So there's this beautiful book, I think, I was talking to you about it earlier by Gary Chapman, which talks about the 5 love languages. And it says that there are different ways in which the mind understands love. So I tell everybody, don't treat people the way you want to be treated. Treat people the way they want to be treated. I think it's very, very important. Today, if I'm going to keep telling you, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing that for you, but do you really appreciate that? Do you really want that? And most of the times it's not like that. You're really looking for something else and I'm looking for something else. So I think communication is the key to 80% of the relationships, and 20% is that don't assume that they will understand. If you want something, ask for it. Like, don't sit in the chair and be like, oh my God, I thought you would understand. How? Like, you're not a mind reader. It's not going to happen. So I guess if these two things,
And ask clearly. I'm going to add one more line to
yes,
this because
yes,
I know so many people say, I think that we should probably, and in all of that, what you actually wanted is completely lost.
absolutely. And it's lost, and it's just a mystery, right? Like today, if you like the color brown or black, and I might like white, but how will I know till I don't ask question, what's your favorite color? You have to tell
I'm
me, right?
guessing, nah, Ashna only wears brown. So, yeah,
Yes,
I have to read your
yes,
mind for that.
yes, and that's not fair. That's not fair to the person. That's not fair to you, and ultimately there is disappointed, which is just caused because you just didn't ask for it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I think overall that's not fair to the relationship itself because you're
absolutely
expecting mind reading to take place.
correct.
Um, and it's so true, like when you giving the example of a fight. Some people want a hug. Some people
Hmm.
want to be left alone.
Hmm.
Now, how are you supposed to know what that person would want?
Right.
When is the right time to ask the person how you would want to be treated when you're having a fight, not when you're having a fight?
Absolutely. So I mean that's why I say that when you're working out relationships, when you're talking to a partner. So I always believe relationship or love, they go through 5 stages. Okay, first is this attraction phase. Okay, where you're like madly in love and everything is like, oh my God, roses and unicorns and rainbows. Okay, that's the phase. That's a phase I call the honeymoon phase, which doesn't last too long, but it is there. Okay, then comes the curiosity phase wherein you're trying to understand, all the masks are off. You're kind of trying to understand the person, and then comes a crisis. Okay, now most relationships these days don't move beyond crisis. When there's a problem, they want to run. Okay, and that's where I think if you learn, okay, in the beginning, okay, that if there is a problem, how would we maneuver it? These conversations, these talks need to happen, not necessarily when the problem arises. See, problems are inevitable. Okay, every relationship will go through a problem. However much you may be in love or understanding, you're going to have a time when you're not going to agree upon something. You're human, right? It's not possible. You don't agree with everything that your parents say, leave alone finding this new beef somewhere and just kind of trying to, make this whole thing work. So I think in the beginning of the relationship itself, you need to come down and ask each other that what is it that you would like. Like, I know for a fact that I know people who say that, give me some time and I'll come back to you. And that space should be given. Some people are like, no, don't leave me alone. When there's a problem, talk to me. So I think this has to be discussed, that how would you manage a crisis in your relationship. Only when you can manage this crisis will there be deep attachment. There will be the need for commitment, that you really value each other. You value the fact that the person brings something to the relationship. So I think you pass the crisis stage, you learn. Maybe first it's not possible to always know what to do, but when you're in it and when you're out of it, discuss, talk about it, ask them that what would you have liked otherwise, you know and yeah.
I think I like the aspect of before the crisis happens, figure out how you will handle future crisis, potential crisis.
Right.
And after that, almost it's like doing a review and seeing, so how do you think we handled this crisis?
Yeah.
What do you think we should have done instead of this? What do you should think?
Absolutely.
And I think it's that process that
Yeah.
changes the way that you interact with each other.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, we are not perfect, right? There could be times when you can't plan a crisis. So crisis might arise. But if you remember what you did last time, or this is the first time, then you'll know what to do the next time. But you feel that this is it. Every time there's a problem and you're like, this is the end of it, I can't handle it. So I have so many, I have this one person who comes to me, and I realize that every time there is a problem, the response is never proactive. It is always reactive. And this is the problem with a lot of people, because it's like, not texted me in the last 10 minutes. I'm seeing him online. I am seeing her,
That WhatsApp online status is the worst.
it's the worst.
It has caused more fights than anything else, and it is buggy.
Yeah.
Guys, please do not listen to WhatsApp and Instagram online statuses. They are wrong.
I agree. And I think it's very sadistic in nature. I think it's really, what is the point of showing that somebody is online? What is the point? Forget that. The whole thing about delete message. Like, I was angry and I wrote this entire passage to this person, but now I don't feel it anymore. Delete. But the person will know you've deleted something. Why? Why would you do that to somebody? Like, why? It's pure sadism, I think, So, yes.
So a good thing is not to send things in anger then.
Absolutely. So if you want to send that post, this is what I do. Okay, when I want to send something when I'm very, very angry,
Send it to somebody else.
no, I write it in notes. I write it in notes, and then what I do is I sleep over it. The next morning I read it, and I realize that I don't think I have the patience or the bandwidth to deal with what I'm going to write and the response. So therefore, I don't send it anymore.
I don't have the bandwidth to deal with that response.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Why did you say this to me?
Yeah, because when you're in an argument, there's a point that you're proving, right? And you're going to have justification for that point. So that means you're going to have to think more and spend more energy on something that is really, I mean, if it's worth it, then definitely. But something that is just petty and something which you can really let go of, I think you should.
People are stuck in this drama cycle.
Oh my God.
Tell me about drama cycle.
I hate drama. I mean, I think drama, I think what it does, it just takes so much away from you. I mean, as you're saying, I can think of this one particular client that I work very closely with, and I know that sometimes you just think that you thrive on drama. You think that is what is giving you all the necessary entertainment in your life, that clearly shows that there's so much more or something better that you need to do. And I think drama
Explain that further.
The part where
you need something to do. What does
yes.
that mean?
Oh, so you know, right? Why do couples fight?
Why?
Because they have nothing to do. It is a habit. It is a habit. So there's a lot of research which says that there are some couples who cannot be in relationships if they don't fight, because over the years they have cultivated a relationship where fighting is a very, very important part of their relationship. So you take the fight away, the couple's gone.
The relationship's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. Because fighting is really important.
So our relationship was based on argument.
Yes, it is. It is. So that's how it is. So the whole idea here is that drama, or you call it arguments, it becomes a very essential part. I know so many people who tell me that, if every relationship there must be an argument. You must fight. It's very healthy to fight. And I mean, I just listen because, yeah, of course, it's healthy to have a disagreement, but to fight, I'm not too sure about that.
So my first girlfriend said the same thing. And like, we don't fight. I was like, yeah, we're not supposed to. No, we have to fight. Otherwise, how will I know that you love me? I was like, hi la. I was like, ye kya hai?
I get your sentiment because I'm like it's like surprising when people who are so well read, so educated say that yeah, you have to fight in a relationship. No, I don't think you have to fight. You have to agree, you have to disagree, and you need to draw your boundaries and decide whether this works for you or it doesn't work for you. So yeah.
In all fairness, you were 14, 15, so probably the well-educated part might not have happened yet. But like
14, 15. Yes, I agree with those. Yeah. So that's another thing altogether. That generation is very different, Their priorities are very different, As I said, everything is very quick for them. Everything's very fast. If it doesn't move fast, then it's not working for them.
So in this whole thing, right? Like Valentine's Day is the main issue here. It's not the issue, but like it's the thing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about love.
True.
What is love?
Okay, so I read this beautiful thing somewhere, okay? So, the river of Jordan, okay?
No, what is that?
It's this river, okay? It's in Jordan, all right? And it's
Oh,
in Israel.
how interesting.
Yeah.
There's a river of Jordan in Jordan.
No,
Perfect. Okay,
in
fine.
Israel. Let's take it in Israel, okay? And it kind of gives water to two water bodies, okay? One is the river of the Sea of Galilee, and the other one is the Dead Sea. Okay, so if you see the Sea of Galilee, it's vibrant, it's beautiful. People are water skiing over there. They're having so much fun. People are, there's a fisherman out there doing things because it's a lot of vitality and a lot of life. Okay, just 65 miles away, south, there is a Dead Sea. Okay, and it is just dead. Okay, so why the stark difference? Okay, because the water flows from the Jordan River to the Dead Sea also. But why is there so much of a difference between the two bodies? Because when the Jordan River flows in the Sea of Galilee, the whole idea is that it's going in and out. There's an inflow and there's an outflow. All right? When in the Dead Sea, it just stays there. Okay? And that's exactly how our life is with a partner. There has to be an inflow and there has to be an outflow. So only when you give will you receive. Right? And only when you receive will there be abundance of giving also. So the whole idea of generosity, I think, the habit of generosity in a relationship is extremely important. We're always so worried, whether we'll give too much of ourselves. We'll give too much of this. But love is this. The human spirit is this. The more you give is the more you're going to get back, and not with fear. If you give with fear, you're going to get things back like that, So just this comparison helps us understand that at the Dead Sea, the water is just still. There's only inflow. There is no outflow. Okay, and that's why there is the same spirit of love which is also just staying there. There's nothing coming out of it, right? So love, I would say, is an exchange of people giving and receiving. So for me, the definition is very subjective because it's different for different people. But if this whole idea sets into your mind that, if you give, you're going to receive, and the more you give, the more you're going to receive. So I think that's what love is for me.
It was very interesting. So yesterday, I was interviewing Jay Shetty,
Yes.
right, which is my current highlight
Yes.
recently. And
Congratulations on that
Thank
one.
you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And we were talking about his book on the 8 rules of love.
Yes.
And we were speaking, and I said that it's so interesting how we think of love as a finite resource. Like, oh, I have only 100 amount of love and I have to only give you 50% because otherwise I can't. And it's like, but love is an infinite resource that's coming out of you.
So beautiful, and that's what the habit of generosity. Just give. Don't be so scared. I think a lot of people are scared. Like what will they do with it, and what can they do with it? It's yours to give, and it's yours to take if you want. So I think.
But how to give love? Like, like what ways would you think about it? It's like, say you love somebody, the person doesn't know that you love them. Like, how are you supposed to say that you love them? Should you be saying that you love them? Should you not be saying that you love them? What will they think of you? These are all the things that people have in their mind, right?
Absolutely. So, okay. So the whole idea is that you should be sure. Okay, being sure is also very important. Okay, because because we as humans get embarrassed very fast. Okay, because you go and tell somebody you love them, and they look at you and they stare you in your eye and they're like, "What? Did you really even mean that?" Or I don't love you. And the return is very important. Okay, so it's like I always say there's some kind of an investment, that the energy that you're putting in someone. So there has to be that level of being sure. So yes, when you go, you can definitely ask anybody. You don't have to be scared. The maximum they can say is no. Okay, and that is a fear.
But my friendship will be ruined, and the relationship that we have so far will be ruined. These are all fears that people have. That is more than the one is rejection, which is huge. But beyond that is like, what will happen to my life?
Yes. So the reason why you're going and telling somebody you love them is because you no longer can tolerate friendship. Okay, that is the reason why you're going and telling somebody that you love them. Okay, the idea here is that if it's so important that you have to communicate, then you must, because you're not going to be happy either way. Okay, so if you don't go and tell them, you're going to keep suffocating. If you go and tell them, there's rejection, but there is a conclusion there, right? You're not continuously battling between the two, So it would be a good idea. And if you genuinely have those feelings, I would just go out there and let them know that you love them. Because, either way, even if it's a rejection or it's not a rejection, you're still not happy, right? So then there has to be a conclusion. There has to be... The thing is, we live a life which we feel that it's endless, right? So we feel every day, we can continuously, wait for things to happen. But you realize that time is not infinite. It is finite. So if you and if you have to move on, you better start moving on now than later.
That's such a powerful thing. Time is finite. Love is infinite. You said you love. Nothing's going to happen. Maybe there's another love that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
There's this funda of, that this is the one and I'll never find love again. Do you meet people who have that as a belief system?
I met somebody very long back that this is the one and I won't find anybody. So that's actually not love. That's obsession. All right. It's actually an illusion, And Ashton, I'll tell you honestly, a lot of people go through that at the beginning when they find somebody. The whole idea of falling in love. Okay. Falling in love, you've fallen for some time, but you're going to get up one day, right? You're not going to continuously be over there. So yes, that's a beautiful feeling. Everybody should experience it. I think I'm all for falling in love, all right? But when you're done, when you get up, you realize what true love is and what love should be, actually. I think that is very important for, I think, the generation to understand that ultimately it's the direction that your love has to go to, or you want it to go in a certain direction. Unfortunately, if you see all our movies, all our stories, they all end with happily ever after. But love starts after that. I don't think it kind of ends there. Like if you see Cinderella, she got her Prince Charming, whatever, she got her prince, and then everything was okay, and they got married or whatever happened to them, and then the story stops there. But the storytellers now need to talk about what to do after that moment or after that particular happily ever after, because I think love.
And there's probably more drama there than
there
before.
Absolutely. Like nobody talks about how they stayed committed, or did Cinderella find another guy. Nobody talks about that, So I think stories and movies, they really impact the human mind so much. I know one of my clients, for her, I think marriage and love was all about Yash Raj movies. Like in her head, she planned this beautiful wedding in her head and whatnot. And then she found a partner who was just not like that. And she found it. She found this guy, and now obviously there's love, and now she understands, and this it's different now. But you see what's happening. Society is putting unrealistic expectations about love and how it should be. But it's just very natural to love. It's like everybody wants love.
It's very interesting. You know, you're saying that pop culture, in terms of the movies, the way that we are programming ourselves right now, is all influencing our belief systems in
Absolutely.
this. How do we move away from the programming wala belief systems to understanding what is the other way of thinking? Because this is the only reality you know, right? You have to give a diamond ring that is 2 times your monthly wages, monthly or yearly
Yeah.
wages or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
And you realize that that's a lot of money, and you realize that came only from an advertisement by
So
a
do you.
diamond brand. So you realize that there's no truth to this. So where do you identify your genuine belief systems, if that's a word?
So I think over time, okay, the fact is first you have to explore the relationship. As I said that you have to spend some time before deciding that he is the one or she is the one. Spend some time, explore the relationship. All right, and when you do that, you'll realize that your partner can't afford that diamond ring, and you love the partner so much, or you're able to move beyond and share. I think share common goals where you realize that a diamond ring doesn't feature in that common goal. Okay, and that can only happen, Ashton, if you're spending enough time, you actually understand your partner, or you come to a level where that infatuation aspect is gone, and now you're really beginning to develop real love, which is based on emotion and reason. Okay.
This common goals, most people don't have personal goals. How will they have common goals?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So then first figure out your goal and then, get into a relationship. So first figure out yourself. Very, very important, Ashin. Before you get into a relationship, I always, always recommend that first understand yourself. Understand who you are and what you want. Like you may get into a relationship, but you're not able to manage yourself. How will you manage a responsibility like that? Because a relationship is a responsibility. At the end of the day, it's two people coming together, but yes, you're doing something for that person, or you're going to be responsible in some way.
Nonsense, Ashna. You get into a relationship hoping the other person takes care of you completely.
I so wish, but it's never like that. It is a shared responsibility, and if you are not ready for it, please don't get into one. I mean, you have so much more to do in life. Then just don't get into a relationship if you're not ready for it.
So what then? Like, what do you do if you're not in a relationship? Like what are you supposed to do to get ready for it?
To get ready for it.
So there are so many people who are listening who
Yeah.
are not in relationships right
Yes.
now, not in love right now. What are they supposed to be doing?
So first, is your goal being in a relationship? That's the first thing you need to ask yourself. Do you want to be in a relationship? And as I would ask, and I would ask the people who are listening to that, do you want a relationship? Because there's a lot of work for that, okay? And you have to be ready for it. That's one thing. Second is human nature wants you to be in love. So everybody wants to be loved. There is no person in this world who can say, "No, hello, I don't want to be loved." Bullshit. Everybody wants to be loved, and it's just very, very natural. Okay, so the need to be loved is there. All right, and I think that's why if you see that the worst kind of punishment is what? Solitary confinement, right? Because you can't survive it. Right, it's really bad for the mind in so many ways, right? So humans need to be loved, okay? And if you need to be loved, first you need to understand how, and if you don't have the capacity, build on capacity. Take care of yourself. Learn to do things for yourself and understand what exactly do you want. And then maybe get into a relationship with somebody. Just blindly entering into one just because you thought the guy was cute and that's the end of the story. No, that's not how it is. It's like understanding, knowing, like conversations. I think that's something we miss out on a lot. Talking to people. Seeing if you kind of get there, you get along or not. Start with simple steps like communicating, spending time together, seeing if things matter to you as much as they matter to the other person. And then comes commitment. Is a very, very long, it's going to come very later. But before that, all of these small steps, I think it's really important. Respect, treating each other with a lot of understanding. So these are very small steps. So, but yes, look for people who can match this vibe or this kind of thought process with you. So I think you should sit down and write a list of things that you want in a relationship, or you want your partner to have, and what are you ready to give also, right? You can't be like, I want this, but what about you, right?
What about people who, I was just talking to a friend of mine who's going through something like this. So she's saying that, I'm in love with this guy is in love with me, but he keeps saying that I don't see a future in this, right? You are too different from me, I'm too different from this, but like there's no future in this, but like,
We are chilling together.
Like what is the scene there?
Nothing, you're just stuck.
Hmm.
You're just stuck and you're choosing to be stuck. See, if you see no future, if the person is so clear, like telling you that there is no future and you have the time, spend some time together, enjoy yourself. But realizing that you're investing your energy, your time in something which is not growth oriented, it's not going to grow. And ask yourself that if you're okay with something like that. Okay, personally, if growth is not a priority for you and you feel that you know things will take shape, things will happen in time, then so be it. But if you feel that for you personal growth, evolving and you know doing meaningful things for yourself is important, then fine. And Ashen, everybody doesn't have to be so growth oriented, or it'll come to them when it has to. So I think it's fine. So check what your priority is. If your priority is okay and you're getting that attention and time from the person, fair, take it. But what will happen is the more time you spend, the more expectations you will build, and ultimately you will be disappointed. And that
That is the key. That if
hmm,
you're enjoy yourself, but without building the expectations. I think what happens is, especially in this friend's case,
hmm.
it is that I'm expecting that hopefully he will change in the future. Right? That itself is shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, that's very dysfunctional. Okay, that's very dysfunctional. Like hoping that you will change in the future is the only response that would work. Hoping somebody else changes is a response which is taking you downhill. Okay, because people don't change. Okay, I mean, if they want to, they will, but they won't change because you want them to change, or just because you show them a quality which they've never seen before. No, things don't work like that, right? So, I mean, yes, to have fun, it's great, but I think there is a point where you need to kind of cut off and be like, you know, this is not working for me. And it's better if you do it sooner than later because, Ashen, whatever you and I say, expectations build. The more time I spend with a person, unfortunately or fortunately, you start building something. And expectations are just a part of it. So I think it's just safe if you want to take care of yourself, just cut off, just kind of, assimilate yourself and just love yourself and be like, no, this is not working for me. Stand up for yourself.
I think the best way of doing this is when you cut it off, ask what was the stuff that was right in this relationship? What have I learned?
Hmm.
What was the stuff that was not working for me so that I don't attract that in the future, right? So
Absolutely.
I focus only on the stuff that I want, not on the stuff that I don't want,
Brilliant, yes.
right? Like I keep telling people and giving this example.
Hmm.
My last boyfriend was a smoker. The
Hmm.
previous one was a smoker. I just hope that I don't get a smoker. My friends tell me this all the time, right?
Yeah.
What are you gonna get? A
A
smoker.
smoker,
Because you're
exactly.
focusing on the smoking. You're not focusing on all the other aspects of this person.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I want to say. So this is something I've done it for myself, okay? That when I was dating somebody and I broke up with that person, the first thing I told myself is that what didn't work for me. So there were things that didn't work for me. And what did I want from the next relationship? And believe me, Ashton, if you are clear, you will get that person. I mean, I'm very confident about that. If you're clear, you know exactly, because your circle, your energy will always be hinting or always be kind of projecting towards that kind of an individual. And it will happen because there's clarity, and that's what is very important.
Yeah, just like how you have life goals, you have what is it that you want from a person kind of goals.
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, one of my favorite habits to do, or it's not a habit, but my favorite task to tell people is that write down the kind of person you want, but then write down what are you willing to give this person. Right? The
Yes.
second part nobody does.
Nobody does. No work we want to do. We want others to do work for us, And a relationship it doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
Both parties have to work.
I think one of the main things coming out from this is all relationships, the hard work.
It is. It
But you have
is.
to put in that much effort.
You have to. You have. If you want it
It's
to
not
work.
daisies and roses and.
So love is not passive.
Hmm.
It is active. Okay. You have to work towards it. So if you're going to sit down and be like, I'm in love. So now, because you're growing, you yourself, okay, what you were 20 years back, you're not the same person anymore. So then your relationship also has to grow, right? You can't be expecting the same things that you did 20 years back that you will do the same thing again now. I mean, some change, something will have to be different, So I guess love is active and you have work to do, and a relationship is work in progress all the time. So if you feel that,
Oh, it's never perfect. It's always you can tweak this,
yes,
you can tweak this, you can tweak this, you can tweak
yes,
this.
yes,
I like that relationships are work in progress.
yes, it is.
Tell me an interesting story from one of your clients, which are aha moments maybe for the listener. Something that happened that you were like, this was so interesting that I would, like to share.
So I think I'm going to go back to the same person I was talking about some time back, about the whole thing about, So I think she dated multiple boys, and in every relationship, she expected it to be the one. Like, this is the one, and I'm going to get married to this person, all right? And I mean, through therapy, she realized that her thoughts were more obsessive rather than being more logical or more emotional. There was less of emotion. There's more of obsession.
How do you identify the difference between these two?
Because when there is emotion, there's more rational. You're more rational. You realize that maybe this can wait, or this can be taken care of a little later. So the reactions are reduced when it is not obsessional in nature. Otherwise, when it's obsessional in nature, you're continuously just reacting. So this client of mine, she found it very difficult to kind of cut it off, or kind of not expect in the relationship. And every time, I think there was just same patterns and same things repeated, where she kept on expecting, and the boy wasn't able to meet her expectations, and there was so much drama that she created for herself because of that. And I think through therapy, what we realized is that patience, self talk, okay, confidence in your own self, okay, because sometimes we equate our confidence to the level of love that we receive from others, which is very dysfunctional, which takes a lot out of our life, because continuously you're dependent on somebody else's approval to feel good about yourself. So I think these were the themes that we worked on, and I think from where she was and where she is now, there's such a beautiful change in her, where she spent 6 months being patient, doing all the work that I gave her to do, journaling and everything possible, and understanding herself. There was a lot of awareness that she developed about the relationships that she had and the relationship that she was in now. Now, finally, she's getting married to somebody now. And after she's made so many attempts, Ashdin, I'm not joking. I mean, I used to feel really bad every time she's like, okay, this is not working out. We're not getting married anymore, but for her, it was so important. Marriage was so important.
So was she obsessed with the person? She was obsessed with the institution? Was she obsessed with wanting to be in a relationship?
I think it was a combination of the institution and I think the idea of just finding someone.
Was the person almost incidental?
Yes, came and went. It was like that, So of course she was looking, okay, but how it was. It like there would be a relationship, and then always expecting it to turn into marriage, not realizing that the guy may not be right for you to get married to him. I mean, the idea was that. So this is what kept happening. It became a pattern, and she realized it herself over time that it's not working. Every guy I can't get married to. Every guy is not turning out to be the Prince Charming of my life. And that led to a lot of disappointment, a lot of anguish, a lot of I think there was a point where she said, "Now I'm just going to go and study. I don't think I'm going to get married anymore." So I guess through a lot of self work, she realized that this was a pattern, and she had to start becoming more aware, more responding rather than being reactive, more patient in her relationships in general, explore whether this is really working or not, rather than just sticking to the idea of marriage. So.
But why was marriage such an obsession?
I told you, the movies.
The Yasha
Yes.
shows.
Yes, and also the society, there's so much of glamour, there's so much of, like, look at the weddings that happen, like, look at the celebrities getting married. Oh my God, they all are fairy tale weddings, aren't they? Like,
But that's the truth, right? We want the wedding, not the marriage.
absolutely. That's so true, actually, and that is the whole. It's completely romanticized, the idea of a marriage, of a relationship. Okay, and as I said, the work begins after that, actually.
Yeah, it's all like, the glittery part of the marriage. We don't
Yes.
remember like the farts that'll happen in bed afterwards, right? Nobody thinks about those things.
Absolutely. And true love is that, right? I mean, when you talk about the real sense of love, it is actually about understanding. It's about having common goals. Helping each other achieve better goals in life, being there for each other. So that's when it really, really work is happening there. And that is what love actually eventually is.
What are 3 habits that you would want your clients to do for relationships or for love?
Are my clients in a relationship?
Yeah,
Either.
in general.
Okay.
Like when it comes to relationships, what are things that you would want them to do?
So boundaries, very, very important. Okay.
Explain.
So boundaries would be, you would either, I think every relationship should have physical, emotional, and digital boundaries.
Physical, emotional, and digital.
Yes, okay.
No checking my phone.
No, not even checking. Stop posting pictures of me if I don't want it, right?
Oh, that way.
Yeah, okay, that's one thing. And yeah, don't check my phone. That's one thing. I mean, it should be agreed upon,
Hmm.
okay? All right. And also, I mean, why should I not check your phone? I mean, that's if you're saying so strongly, don't check my phone, I'm going to go and check your phone,
Hmm.
right? So why not? Okay. When I say boundaries, digital boundaries, knowing when, that space, that knowing when to get into that space and get off it, okay? Respecting the fact that maybe your partner doesn't like to be on the camera all the time or doesn't like to be shot all the time or whatever it might be. So, whatever your digital boundaries, you said that, okay? Physical boundaries, like how much time away is okay, all right? How much time together is enough or not enough, okay? That's one thing. I think emotional boundaries, and I think even for that matter, whether you want to, you want to be touched, not want to be touched. I think all of these boundaries are very, very important. So I think when you set these boundaries initially in a relationship, what you're doing is you're really kind of making sure that nobody's crossing that, and you're not going through the pain, the hurt, or even communicating it later on becomes very tough. So I think boundaries is very important. And I already said, ask for what you want. Very, very important. And the third one I would say is rituals. Okay, as partners, as individuals, I think it's very important to have rituals, like, doing things together. It could be as simple as, like, you're unwinding at the end, at the end of the day, and you're like just talking about your day. So it's necessary. That connection is necessary. And I think in the fast paced world, we forget the connection. It becomes like we'll do a holiday together. So what will the holiday do? You'll be still on your phone and I'll still be doing something else. No, because you've not built the connection. And connection, Ashton, in my case, never happens overnight. You can't be like, today we're connected, tomorrow we're not connected. Not happening. Connections take time. It's like building blocks. So the more time you spend qualitatively, okay, the more stronger your connection is. And sometimes the connection is so strong that you may not actually, meet for a couple of months maybe or days, but you've built it, right? So when you come together, it's just as strong and as beautiful as it should be.
Amazing. All right,
Mm.
fantastic. So now we're going to deep dive into understanding what self love is.
Absolutely, and I'm all ready for it. So shoot your question.
What is this self love, Aashna?
Self-love? Self-love is so many things, Ashton. So let's a simple definition. It's basically how you will encourage, care for yourself. That's what self-love is. But Ashton, before I go into telling you what self-love is, please can I tell you what self-love is not?
Okay, done.
Yeah, because it's so warped, the whole concept of self-love. So when I ask the generation right now, what is self-love? Expensive dinners, lovely holidays, massages, and yeah, just indulging.
Buying myself expensive things.
Yes. So much self-love. Na? Matlab, what have you got for yourself? Just materials, things which you will forget in the next 1 week, or even better, in the next 2 hours once it's over. All right. So self-love definitely is not just indulgence. Self-love is not being selfish. Okay, because I think a lot of people mistake that. Like if you go to, I mean, self-love is okay. A very good way to understand this is, when you go into an airplane and the flight attendant says, please make sure whenever there's an emergency, wear your masks before you help anybody else. If I'm following that regulation, is that being selfish? No. If you take care of yourself, okay, if you're empathetic towards yourself, that isn't being selfish. Being in self-love, it doesn't mean that you're going to be harming somebody or your actions are going to have an negative impact on somebody. So I guess
So it's not necessarily you putting yourself above everyone else at the detriment of other people.
absolutely.
Correct? It's not you being selfish that you're taking everything on yourself and the other people are suffering because of it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's the second thing. And the third thing would be making excuses. Okay.
What does that mean?
Basically, people use this whole word called self-love and make a lot of excuses for being accountable and being responsible. Okay. I say excessively pampering yourself, okay, is actually being very neglectful towards yourself. You're harming yourself more than you're really helping yourself. So don't make excuses and,
Can you give me some examples in this?
yeah, like, for example, you didn't do well in an examination, okay? And you go back home and you're crying and you're like, the world's over for me. I think, this is it. And, just give up on it and not take accountability that you didn't study for the paper. You just did not do what you were supposed to do. And instead of doing that, you say, you know what? I did so badly in the paper. I'm going to go on a holiday. Or parents are like, okay, let's take you on a holiday to make you feel better. It's just sabotaging completely. Okay. And that's just maybe studies. But even a lot of things like at work, you've had a bad day at work. That doesn't mean your workplace is bad. Okay, it's just that you go around pampering yourself and say that, I'm not going to go to work for 3 days. that's not accountability. And that's not love for yourself for sure. That's just pampering, and it's being neglectful, and it's not really sitting down there and understanding that what went wrong. So I think this is something that the generation needs to understand, that self-love is not being selfish. It's not about making excuses, all right? And it's definitely important that it's not only pampering, okay? Self-love is actual work, okay? It is seeing yourself as a complete person, like seeing your strengths and your weaknesses. So self-love is not all love and oh my god, so beautiful and oh my god, amazing. No, self-love is seeing yourself as a whole, and somewhere accepting your problems, your weaknesses, your good qualities. Overall, coming together and realizing that this is you, you know, that's what self love should be.
That's so interesting. So I can understand all the things that it is not. Okay, now let us deep dive into what it can be. So one aspect of it is seeing yourself completely, the
Right.
positives, the negatives, completely who you are as a person.
Right.
How do you
right.
get to that stage?
Very good. So there are certain habits that you have to develop, Ashton. All right.
Amazing. You're on the right place for this.
I know. So there we are. So first step. Okay, there are a lot of cells involved in self love.
What cells?
A lot of cells. So parts of you basically that have to come together. So first is being aware. Okay, being aware what is going on in the present moment. Like, what am I feeling? What are my thoughts? So before you fall in love with somebody or something or yourself, you need to be aware. Most of the times, I think people just live in a limbo. They're just not aware what's going inside, what's going on, nothing. Okay, and our emotional vocabulary is so limited. Like, believe me, like if I ask you how are you feeling, happy, how are you feeling, sad, okay, great, what about it? Nothing about it, because you don't know what you're feeling. And there's this beautiful book that I read. It was by Brené Brown. It's called Atlas of the Heart. Okay, and she explains that one feeling, okay, actually can mean so many different things for people. Like if I'm hurt, it could mean despair, disappointment, vulnerability, so many things for different people. But because our language is so restricted that we are not even able to understand what we really are feeling. So language is not giving power to the experience. It's giving actual power to to yourself, to understand, to give meaning to what you're feeling. So the first step would be self-awareness. And that can happen through a lot of things, asking people for feedback sometimes, people who are close to you, that, what just happened, or sometimes even writing about things. And my favorite is new experiences. Just go out there, experience things, get out of your comfort zone. You'll feel so much more aware because suddenly you have to do things, right?
So identifying aspects of you that you didn't know existed.
Exactly. So being aware of just a very simple thing, that what are you feeling? And if you're not cognizant with your thoughts, with your feelings, believe me, you will not know, forget love, you won't know anything. So I think self-awareness is really important.
So learning and becoming aware of yourself, the way that your thoughts are,
Yes.
the way that aspects of you that you didn't know existed,
Yes.
and what the role they're playing currently in your life.
Absolutely. Right? So I think that's important. Then comes self-knowledge. Do you know yourself? Like Ashton, if
What's
I
the difference between the self-awareness and the self-knowledge?
awareness is basically, right now if I ask you, Ashton, how are you feeling? You should be able to pinpoint your feeling.
Okay.
Knowledge is who you are. What is your story? Right? Like it's like, how can I fall in love with you if you don't know you? Like you don't know yourself, right? If you don't know who you are, what are the things, where have you come from, what your journey has been, your struggles, you forget everything. And you're just sitting out there with no knowledge of yourself.
Interesting. So knowledge is all of you up till this point.
Yes.
Correct? Is that
Yes,
a correct
absolutely.
way of saying it?
Absolutely.
Awareness is about what's happening right now with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, so basically, awareness is more like, I'm feeling something, okay, and I'm aware of what I'm feeling. On the basis that I choose my response, I decide whether how much of a reaction do I want to give this thing or not give it, right? So that becomes awareness.
How much am I willing to put inside or not?
Yes, exactly.
And knowledge, how would you go about getting?
So knowledge, as I said, so the first thing like I do make a lot of my clients do is that I ask them to write their own story. So from childhood to now, whatever you've gone through, just write.
Oh.
Yeah, so then they write. So some of them even draw. They'll draw, like, they'll draw about their childhood, or sometimes I ask them to get pictures of their childhood and then compare it to the picture now. That is also such a beautiful revelation of what comes to their mind, So we'll do that, okay? You look like
I was
like you didn't do it with me.
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling betrayed. Like my autobiography. Where is that?
Yes. So yeah. So and you
No
can have,
wonder there's no self-love, Aashna.
sure.
Betrayed.
No, don't worry. There are a lot of other things that we've done. Okay, don't forget that in your story. All right. So yes. So yeah.
But it's so true. Like this afternoon, I got a message from a friend who I met 18 years ago,
Wow.
and she's like, "Wow, Ashton, now when I think back to what you were like 18 years ago and
Hmm.
what all the things that you're doing now,
Hmm.
I can't even imagine this journey that you've been on." And I
Absolutely.
was like, "Yeah, even
Yeah.
I can't imagine this journey I've been on. What was I like 18 years ago?"
Correct. And that's why your story, a story gives you a lot of power. It gives you a lot of strength because you realize that you've come a very long way, Like recently I wasn't very well and, not taking too much out of it, but one of my friends told me, why don't you write about it? I made a PowerPoint presentation of it. I said, okay, I'm going to present it one day. The idea was not about the presentation. The idea was penning down every emotion that came to me, the pain I went through, the loss I felt. There were a lot of things that was attached to it. So I think sometimes just writing about it. And then, and I'm sitting over here today and 17 days back, I was sitting somewhere else. I was being somewhere else. But this is what progress is. This is what growth is. Or this is what just moving on is. So that's knowledge, knowing, ability to understand that you will get over it, or you will be able to accept it eventually.
I think it's that part, that if you understand the past and what all you've been able to go through, then the future doesn't look all that daunting. It's
Absolutely.
because you forget the past that the future looks scary sometimes.
Yes. And that brings me to forgiveness.
Okay.
Okay, as part of self love. You're able to forgive part of yourself, parts of things that you've done in the past, because you're very harsh. We're very harsh with ourselves. So, forgiveness is a part of self kindness. That's what I call it, self kindness, where you have to learn to be kind to yourself, Ashton. I think we don't. We are very, our self talk is so harsh sometimes. Sometimes try talking to you, just try listening to what you're telling yourself, try
But
saying it.
kindness and forgiveness are different things.
Yeah, they're pretty different. But under a subtopic like that. So, I'll go with forgiveness first because I started that first. So forgiveness is very important. I think that is very, very important because there are times where you've not been right or you've not been correct in some way, and you hold on to it. You hold on to it for a very, very long period of time, and that causes a lot of pain, a lot of guilt, and that kind of forbids you from moving ahead. So I think practicing forgiveness is also really, really important for yourself
How do you do that?
through lots of ways. If you're not able to do it on your own, I think it's a very good idea to meet somebody, a therapist or somebody practicing, in helping you to get over it maybe. So I think that's a good idea. Or even things like reflecting, what is still holding you back from not forgiving? Like just sitting down and writing about it. Journaling is a fantastic way. There are different types of journaling these days, review journaling and whatnot. So ask yourself, what is stopping you? And there's
How do you find out more about this kind of journaling? Like, where can you learn this and actually make it a part of your practice?
make it a part of okay. Again, a therapist, but yes, you can go online. I think there's a plethora of information that you'll find, but just simply start with just questioning yourself. You can start with the journaling where you're questioning that what is not working for you. What is stopping you from not moving ahead. All right, what is it that is causing so much pain on a day-to-day basis? I think just questions that come up to you. Okay, and the answers are definitely, you have to find those answers because those are your questions, right? So eventually, I think forgiveness is very, very important, crucial for falling in love with yourself.
And one important thing that I want to bring to the attention of the listeners is that you notice that Ashna didn't ask the why question. It was what has happened, what has happened, what has happened, instead of a why has it happened.
Absolutely, and why not? Because
Because when we do why, we get into this death spiral of negative thoughts.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially if you're journaling, it happens all the time. You never death spiral into positivity.
Never.
Huh.
And whys really have no reason. Why were you mean to somebody? Arey, because I wanted to be now. Now obviously when I'm writing, I'm like, no, this one did that to me. Storytelling again. So there's no need for that. Just be honest with yourself. And yes, you've done a mistake. Learn to accept it and move ahead. All right. Self-kindness, the fourth one. Actually, the forgiveness just popped in my head. Self-kindness is really important. Being kind to yourself. Coping skills come with self-kindness. So when you are anxious, when you are upset, when you're afraid, what do? Sit and write those things that you do. You can meditate, you can, go for a walk, you can take a shower. So when you're stressed or when you're not okay, you don't have to you don't have to go helter-skelter. You have a list ready in front of you and tells you that, okay, I can do this. I can cope better with this. So I think that's also very, very helpful, I think.
But and I haven't understood. Self-kindness, what is it that you do?
So kindness is basically taking care of yourself, right? So basically making sure that, like if you can't be a friend to yourself, Ashton, okay, you definitely can't be a good friend to anybody. Believe me, it's a prerequisite. Good friend to yourself, good friend to somebody else. All right.
So you have to be a good friend to yourself before you can be a good friend to others.
Absolutely. You have to be nice to yourself. Like, if you're not nice to yourself, believe me, I'm sure it's very tough for you to be nice to others also. So the way you treat yourself, Ashton, the way you are talking to yourself, the way you're treating yourself, if you're able to kind of, just for 2 minutes here, what is your narrative, what are you saying, you'll realize that that conversation itself is a very good understanding of why you are or you're not in love with yourself. So somebody said, I don't know, remember who said this, but when you're talking, when you're talking to yourself, and if you're talking to yourself like you are talking to somebody you love, then you are on the path of self love.
Interesting.
Yes.
So, what would talking to yourself sound like?
Talking to yourself would sound, it could be positive, it could be neutral, or it could be negative.
I remember in college, many of my friends would say, "Oh yeah, I just talk to myself all the time. I just like constantly talking to myself." Right? What is that versus what you're talking about?
So talking to yourself all the time, I'm a little worried over there.
Hmm.
But when I'm talking about talking to yourself, is like, when you're sitting by yourself, okay, what are your thoughts? Okay, what is your response? When you're traveling, when you're by yourself, or even when you make a mistake, what is the first thought that comes to your mind? Are you a protector? Are you kind of, taking care of yourself, or are you like, being a critique? Are you kind of, blaming yourself, sabotaging yourself? So what is the way your mind responds? And what is the narrative? What is the story you tell yourself? That in that situation, you say it's okay, don't worry, we'll figure it out together. Or you're like, oh my God, what have you done? Life's over, whatever. So that's what your whole narrative or your self-talk should sound like.
And where does it move towards? So, what should it not sound like? Should is a wrong word, but
Hmm.
what is it that is not self-love, and
Hmm.
what is it that is self-love? Like, is it, oh, you bichara, poor thing, or is it like
Yes. So yes, self-love definitely, as I said earlier, it's basically knowing your positives and your negatives. So even acknowledging that when you've not gone wrong, there is work that has to be done. But work has to be done in such a way that you're not sabotaging yourself. You're not like literally there's no barrage of negative talking. There's like it's a problem, but you're solution focused.
Okay.
All right.
So it's not belittling yourself for a problem, but it is there is a problem.
Hmm.
So you're being realistic about it.
Yes.
And then you're saying, what can I do about it now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So it is not critiquing, for example. It is not
Right.
criticizing.
Right.
It is not comparing. Those three
Yes.
C's. It's not
Oh my
doing
God.
that.
Yes.
But it is actually seeing what can I do about it now onwards.
Absolutely, Ru. That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is the aspect of kindness.
Hmm.
Now, how can we make all of these things part of our daily life?
Hmm.
Like we said, Valentine's Day, right? It's all about self-love. What are
Yes.
things that people who are listening right now
Can
can
do?
start doing?
All right. So there are a lot of things that, one is, as I said, journaling is very important. Okay. Feedback.
How? No. So you have to deep dive into what? How do you journal?
Okay, so when I talk about, let's start with self-awareness, okay, journaling. Okay, so basically you can start with just, if you're not very interested in writing long stories about things, you can just start by just penning down how your day was, okay, just being aware of your day, all right. If something upsetting has come up, okay,
Should you type it? Should you write it?
I'm always the person who likes to write because I think a lot of your senses are involved in it and you're more focused and, you're getting rid of the screen in some way. So, yes, writing would be beautiful if you're able to do that. Journaling ideally would be writing it down on a piece of paper or a journal, whatever you choose.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I think journaling is great if you can do that. Okay. The other thing that you can do for self love is, again, I spoke about rituals, having a ritual for yourself. Like you can have an entire, like in the day, you decide that this is a thing that you start your day with. Okay, it could be intention setting for yourself. Okay, knowing that self love is not, Ashton, self love is about having a lot of courage, to grow. Okay, it's like that this is where you are, but this is not where you want to be for the rest of your life, right? You want to grow. So that is what self love is. And I think that requires a lot of planning, goal setting. Okay, if these habits are in place, I guess self love just happens on its own because you are really valuing yourself. All right, you're not spending every day like just existing, right? You're taking the effort, you're taking the time to work on yourself, to do important things for yourself, and like the whole journey of growth is in front of you.
The way that I'm seeing this when you're talking, it's almost that self-love is. I think the word love throws people. It's more nurturing.
Yes.
It's when you think love, you're thinking like romance and all those kinds of aspects of it.
Right.
It's not necessarily that, because when you do that, then it is all I will buy myself, I will spoil myself. When you
Right.
think
Right.
about it as love, but when you
Right.
think about it as you know um, nurturing, it's like the
Yes.
way that you take care of a plant,
Absolutely.
right? Are you giving it the right water? Are you giving the right soil? Are you taking care of it? Are you making sure that it's growing in the right way? What is it that you have as plans for this plant?
Absolutely.
I see this from what you're saying. Is that what
Yes,
you're
it is. It is exactly because what is love? Okay, think about it. What is love? Okay, when a mother is with the child, what is the mother actually doing? What is love? How is she loving the child? She's feeding the child. She's making sure the child is taken care of in terms of protected, well taken care of. So what is all that? That is actually nurture. And that's what you have to do for yourself also. You have to nurture yourself. You have to actually take the right decisions for yourself, making sure that, for you're cultivating a mindset for yourself where you're you're protected, right? So that's why the coping skills and things like that. So you're taking care of yourself as a whole. And love is a feeling, all right? And it comes and it goes. Okay, it's not constant. It's not always going to be there. But reminding yourselves, and that's why a ritual is very important. So every morning you start your day by just simple statements like I love and accept myself, or things like doing things for yourself. Like maybe it could be a meditation, or it could just be starting your day with writing a few things that you want to achieve in the day, maybe and then just going back at night and reflecting on it. Did it happen? And if it did not, maybe tomorrow.
You're so right. I just recently did a podcast on how habits are the highest form of self love.
Yes.
Because when you say that I'm going to do a habit, what you're doing is you're committing to yourself. You're making a
Absolutely.
commitment. And every time you don't do that, it's like you're breaking that commitment.
True.
Right? It's like you're cheating in a relationship. It's almost like that.
Absolutely.
Right? But when you form a habit and when you stay consistent with it, it is almost like self love because you're doing this obviously to nurture an aspect of you.
Absolutely.
And then you're staying committed to that aspect of you. So you're seeing that habit forming as a part of self love.
Fantastic. That's exactly how it is. And as you said, habits. These are habits like self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-care. Even confidence in your ability. That is also so important for love. For loving yourself. That when you don't have confidence in your own abilities, I think sometimes love takes a back seat because it's not real for you anymore. So even building on your confidence is important
That's
for
a
self-love.
big one for many people, right?
It is a very big
How
one.
do you get to that stage of confidence?
Yes, it is a very big one, but it is essential. It is very essential because I think for most people they doubt themselves a lot. Okay, and when there is doubt, there is no love. Okay, in doubt, love can't exist. All right, so it's important that if you are not confident, sometimes even taking inspiration from others is important. Look at people who are confident. What do you like about them? What do you see in them? And then, as you said, form habits. It could be like, starting with a small goal, a goal that you can achieve. Like, for example, making a cup of tea for yourself. It's a goal, right? I mean, getting up and doing that. Achieve that and see how you feel about that. But tell yourself you're doing it, right? We do so many things and we are like, I can't do that. But you've done so much through the day. But nobody goes back and thinks about what all they've achieved. And they only think of that one thing that they've not achieved. And that's where the problems begin. So start kind of being aware of all of the things that you are doing, and then slowly and steadily go to the goal. I'm not saying don't achieve that, but be kind, have the confidence you've done these things. That'll happen too. That comes through knowledge.
This confidence thing, how would you help somebody who has a low sense of confidence?
See, Ashdin, low self-confidence comes from a lot of places. Okay, is it because of the past that somebody's, kind of the kind of conversations they've had, they've been bullied. So confidence in general is a very, very, I would say, it depends from client to client. But building confidence requires first an understanding that it is through experiences. Confidence is something that you can't buy in the market, right? You can't be like, I want 500 grams of confidence. It doesn't work like that. Confidence only comes through experiences. It comes through you putting yourself out there, risks, challenges, okay? And a lot of mental support, okay? Coming from places, a support system that you need to create. Knowing that, if things don't work out, you have people who are there for you. I think, and as a therapist, that is really important. When people come to me and say, I don't have any confidence, and the first thing I ask them that, are you confident that you're breathing? And they're like, yeah, I'm breathing. There is confidence somewhere. What we need to understand is it's somewhere and it's not there somewhere. So it's not that you're not confident, it's just that you're not confident there. And I think that differentiation really helps.
What's interesting is that there part, very often people have the best abilities in that there part.
Yeah, they do.
Right? They are rock stars in that there, but zero in
Yes.
confidence with that.
Yes, yes.
Right? And then you one is though you want to shake them up, right? Like whack them a few times and
Yes.
saying like, are you
Yes.
seeing how good you are at this? What's wrong
Right,
with you?
right. But they don't see it. They just don't see it because they've chosen not to. Because as I said, it's just that they feel that it's a universal, that there is zero confidence. But the point is, it's not zero. It's just not. It's just that that 20 that you want is not falling in place, and you work on that 20 and not on the 80. So that's what you have to kind of narrow it down. focus on it. There are a lot of things that I do with them, and there's hypnotherapy, there is visualization exercises that you do with them. Also, in their day-to-day life, where all have they felt confident, past experiences, drawing energy from there. So I think these things really help people to finally come to a space where they can try at least to be confident. So they start by trying, and eventually it becomes a habit to be confident.
Yeah.
Then.
I think like people look at me now, and this is just recently what people have been saying is that you're so confident, you're so lucky, right? You're lucky that you're confident, you are lucky that you were born confident, or whatever is there in their mindset, but they don't realize or understand that actually confidence is a lot of hard work.
Lot of hard work.
Right? Confidence, like you said, comes from stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Right? Every time you step out of your comfort zone, you feel that sense of, wow, I can do this.
Absolutely.
Right? And what that does is that makes you stronger. And, coming back to the nurturing analogy that we're talking about self-love, so it loops back. There was a very interesting study that was done that talked about polyphenols are basically the plant compounds that help protect the plant, and it's the stuff that we use as antioxidants and is good for us, etc. So scientists found that plants that were grown in a greenhouse had lesser polyphenols than plants that were out in the wild, and which is why we say, oh, wild picked versus farmed. And they realized that it's the harsh environment that actually made the polyphenols.
Absolutely.
It is not the nurtured environment, or it is not the over-nurtured rather, or the protected environment that was making this.
Absolutely.
So learning to step out of that protected environment from time to time, doing things that scare you.
Yes.
Right? Like you're my therapist, you know how many things I do every week that scare me. You probably like bash your head against the wall for being in the opposite direction.
And still be calm about it.
And see calm, ohms and...
Yes.
So exactly, that's what it is, right? It is putting yourself out there.
Absolutely.
Open to criticism, open to failure, and seeing how you turn out.
Absolutely. And that's why, I kept saying, pampering is being neglectful. So stop kind of equalizing self-love with pampering and mollycoddling and saying that, oh my God, I had such a tough day today and I need to kind of retire for the rest of my life. No, it's not working like that, So you have to take accountability. You have to get there, and that's actually the true meaning of love, Ashdin. Yet you're seeing yourself through a time because you're getting somewhere, right? And you can only do that when you tell us that I'm there for you. We're going to do it together. We're a team. So these kind of statements, these kind of, conversations, if you have with yourself once in a while, like I have it all the time, but, you will feel that it's a team working together.
That's so true. It's a commitment to yourself.
Absolutely. That we could figure it out, it's going to happen, I mean, what will happen if it doesn't happen, So I guess these kind of statements, these kind of conversations, I think somewhere, it just sends a very, very subtle message to your mind that you are loved, you're taken care of, you're supported, And Ashdin, one very thing about self-love is the love that you have received as children, as a child, love begins at home. Okay, so sometimes it's very important for people who can't find the self-love is to go back and check why is it not there. So it could be for a lot of reasons. There could be abuse, there could be comparisons, there could be, a lot of mistrust, mental health issues. Okay, why you can't feel the self-love. So it's not so easy, but at the same time, it's not impossible.
So start with the things that we've spoken about in the podcast. If you still find it hard, then maybe there is a psychological issue, there is trauma, there is something that is that you need unearthing.
Absolutely.
And for many, that itself is stepping out of the comfort zone.
Absolutely.
For many, going to a therapist itself is nurturing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that is so important. Oh, I need to go to my therapist is not mollycoddling if you see it in the right way.
Absolutely.
Right? Amazing. Okay. Any thoughts on self-love as a parting word to our listeners? Should they say I love you to yourself? Should they look in the mirror and say I love you? What are the things that they should do?
I think just one thing. I'm saying it again. Talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love. I think keep that in mind, when you're having a tough day. What would you tell your friend? What you've done is pathetic. I think you should just go, just do something drastic. Maybe.
Boil your head. Huh?
Yeah, whatever, okay? No, you would tell your friend, it's okay, cheer up, yeah? It's a bad day, you'll get over tomorrow. Can't you say the same thing to yourself? You've had a bad day, get over it. Tomorrow will be another day. And if it's still bad, then the next day will be better. And the day after that maybe, or maybe you're just doomed. Like, it's okay. I think this is exactly what you would tell your friend, and you'll be there for your friend, right? So why is it that we are the first ones to run away? when there is a situation or a problem from our, not helping ourselves, we're like the first ones to say, okay, flight, let's go. Let's run away from the situation. So I guess, yes, talking to yourself like you talk to your friend or someone you love is the best thing that you can do to yourself.
I think that's so important. Like we run away from our own problems instead of understanding.
Yes. Bags packed and you're leaving, you figure it out on your own.
But like as soon as you realize that you're there for yourself, I think that's the first level of self-love.
It is, absolutely.
Amazing. Ashna, thank you so much for coming and having this conversation with us. How can people get in touch with you? And don't say that you can get in touch with Ashdin and he'll tell you.
You can.
No, what is your Instagram handle? How can they reach out to you?
Okay, so my Instagram handle is ashnamodi.s or Isa Wellness. You can reach out on any. And as he said very correctly, he's already said it, so I'm going to say it again. Reach out to Ashdin and he'll just put you through. I mean, he's very good at that. He's done a very good job so far.
Ashna, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a lot of fun. And call me again, I'll come.
Done. Full
Yes.
of confidence.
Yes, absolutely.